You ever spend time just wandering the web to play free Flash games? I used to do this quite often, and even though they never really delivered a huge burst of excitement or had memorable events, they were free and provided a good distraction from what I was supposed to actually be doing. That's how Motte Island feels, except it isn't free and is just as forgettable. Motte Island is a survival horror adventure game that, simply put, feels rushed and sloppy. From watching the trailer, it seemed there would be puzzles and mysteries to solve, or even escape the room style gameplay. However, it lacks much of that and simply boils down to grab a weapon, hit a guy, and go fetch an item. At first glance, you may think it involves some fun, brutal-paced top-down action like 2012's Hotline Miami, but you'd be expecting far too much. As for puzzles, forget about that now because there are none. The game may make you think that there are puzzles by having you go and collect odd items, but it's just a bunch of fetch quests and redundancies that require no thought to achieve the goal. You may be thinking that the weapon system could offer some diversity in the gameplay, but every weapon is exactly the same aside from aesthetics. While holding an axe for the first time, I thought maybe I can go around shouting, "You what, mate?" and just start bashing people's heads in, while in turn, mincing foes to bits with quick slashes of a cleaver. Instead, they acted the same, and it just boiled down to whether or not I had the jump on an enemy. If I did choose to sneak up, the fight was over. Every single enemy in the game can be taken out with one swipe. This would have been cool if it was hard to do, but these enemies are just blind. And just like the weapons, they only defer in look. Seriously though, they are completely blind. When I first started, I tried to sneak around undetected, and I would worry about coming too close. Later on though, I found out how easy it was to navigate and take the guys out as I went. The game tried to mix it up with the flashlight, which will set enemies on you immediately once the light shines on them. But in all practicality, the flashlight is optional. You can honestly just walk around with it on, and if you do come up to an enemy, simply turning it off and taking them out is simple. I won't spend time on the graphics as I wasn't expecting much from what was teased, and for the format it was fine. I have to say that with a bit more polish it would have looked very nice and only came just shy of being authentically creepy. What killed it for me though was the dialogue and the narrative. The story is entirely text-based and riddled with punctuation and grammatical errors. I often felt as I was reading a Chinese product's user manual with lines like, "I have dug the grave and there's nobody in but the key. Could it be that Zadok never find his wife's body?" Other odd lines like this occurred frequently, as well as weird spelling errors and overall omission of words. I can't say much about the audio either. The sounds are pretty generic, with simple grunts and shouts from the enemies, clunky footsteps for you, and the music works mostly as an ambient tone, if anything. But the game did feature canon indeed, which is always nice. Very strange for a horror game's end credits, but hey, you gotta love the classics. Another disappointment was the island itself. It looks as if there would be a great amount to explore and enjoy, but the majority of the space you can travel through is just filler. There's no reason to wander through the buildings other than to look around for what you need for the quest. Not only this, but the buildings that weren't relevant to the story were just empty with neither enemies or other content, just empty, cluttered rooms. If you watch the trailer, realize that everything they showed you is basically the entire game. Even the last boss is in there. I guess the things you will miss in the trailer are the forced climaxes, and by that, I mean there are moments of drama that are completely unnecessary. After killing a cursed bear, and questioning who would keep this as a pet, the words, "Me," in giant full capital letters just fly across the screen. For what though? I don't know. You find yourself waking up in a cabin, and the man is burying his pet bear. And then, if you run out of time, he just runs in and kills you. It's never hinted that he wanted info from you, or that he wanted to torture you. He just randomly tied you up and decided to kill you quickly later. Not only that, but the game broke several times for me during this fight, forcing me to reset to continue on. Motte Island is a game that I quite honestly can't recommend. It's not entirely bad where it felt like a chore to play, but there's nothing that warrants giving it a go. It was just boring and had nothing to make you want to keep going. The dialogue isn't bad enough to be funny, the story's too generic to be interesting, and the combat is very poor. If anything, this game's highlight is the somewhat cool lighting effect, pretty cool art design, and Canon in D. Seriously though, why is Canon in D in here? It's not eerie, and it doesn't give me the feeling of melancholy. It just makes me feel like I'm at a wedding. I guess the creator wanted there to be some sort of silver lining at the end. For more game videos, and possibly more Canon in D, check out the Overshield channel on YouTube. I'm Connor Maya, and thank you for watching my review of Motte Island. That last bit about Canon in D being on the channel is not guaranteed though, so...